We're recording.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming today and welcome to our friends on Zoom. My name is Jane Burns. I am the Director of Elder Services for the town of Andover. And it is a delight to see folks here in the building in person and still maintain our Zoom audience. I'm so glad to have you here today for this very, very, very important topic. It is so important, not always a happy topic, it's never a happy topic, but it's an important topic. And really pre-planning and having an understanding of what can happen when you lose a spouse is so vital. This program is brought to us today by the Andover Mentors. The Andover Mentors are three of our finest residents. Dawn Schroeder, whose background is in banking. Roland Jacobson has a background in financial planning. And Jeff Kaplan, whose background is in education and technology. These three gentlemen got together about a year ago and said, hey, what can we do to support programming and bring educational programming to the community? And they've done an outstanding job of it. Every topic they bring, folks walk away enlightened and with a better understanding. So I'm thrilled that they put this program together. We have a wonderful panel of experts that they will be introducing to join us. So please think of your questions, ask your questions. This is the first right step in planning for those unfortunate times in our lives. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce, looks like Roland Jacobson of the Andover Mentors.
Thank you, Jane. As Jane said, I'm Roland Jacobson. I am a certified financial planner, now retired. However, I worked in this field for, well, as a Fidelity, since 1991. I was an investment consultant and an investment advisor. But after I retired from Fidelity in 2007, I had already gotten my certification as a financial planner through the help of Fidelity with education and a 2-day intensive test I had to pass in lots of different financial areas: insurance, financial plans, estate planning, taxes, several other things. But anyway, so I worked locally for an investment advisor here in Andover for about 10 years. And after I no longer received a new contract, I was at loose ends. And I thought, what am I going to do now? And I saw this program offered by the Senior Center called Discovering Your Purpose. And by the way, that program is going to run next Monday, as I recall. It was a wonderful program, and it pushed me in the direction of how can I share my background with other people who may not know some of the things I know. But I was also uncomfortable that I don't think I can do this alone. So one of the other classmates of that particular program, Discovering Your Purpose, introduced me to Dawn and to Jeff. And our backgrounds complement each other. And when we sit down and have a conversation, we come up with more ideas of what people might be interested in. And we're asking you, the audience, to do the same thing. Maybe you have ideas that we could log into or hook into and share with you. Anyway, I just wanted to say that was my background. And for that, I would like to introduce Dawn.
Thanks, Roland. I had a long career in the Merrimack Valley, working in banking for about 40 some years with different financial institutions and dealing with commercial as well as retail activities. But I think most of my time, and my wife will probably agree, was spent with helping nonprofits. Been on the board of directors, trustee, and treasurer for I can't tell you how many groups. And it's always been great to help out, to organize, and to whether it's fundraising, whether it's getting the books in order or trying to get membership up. It's something that has been great to do for the community. Meeting with, I had met Jeff some years ago. I started the men's hiking group here at the senior center, and Jeff introduced me to Roland. So it's been a great situation. We don't always agree. We think the caricatures are pretty accurate. I won't tell you which member doesn't, but it's a great opportunity for me to stay active and find, topics and bring other people in. We've got a great panel today, so it was enjoyable working with the other two in trying to figure out a program. We've done several of them, so hopefully you'll come to some of the other ones. They cover a broad spectrum. So with that, I'd like to introduce Jeff Kaplan.
Thanks, Don, and good afternoon. And to the folks on Zoom. We have a number of folks out there. Welcome, and welcome to you all. And one of the things I think most significant is as we go through the program, please let us know if you have questions. People on Zoom can use your chat function. People here, of course, can just make a note, and we'll stop between presenters and ask you for questions and thoughts or just anything you'd like to share. The best part of doing this together with Don and Roland is the fact that we get to meet other people and be involved with other people who are doing similar things at the similar time in their lives, and it's wonderful to share. The idea for mentoring came to me the first time was when we were in Florida. We lived there for a number of years, pre-COVID. It was a good plan. We left in time. Bottom line is, I worked with a charity, I was on the board, and one of the things that came along was how we can do different training programs for people who are remote, on Zoom, and also for people in the actual vicinity. And they call them money mentoring programs particularly, and that's where that idea came from initially. And what we did was try to work with disadvantaged people particularly because they desperately lacked what many of us got at home, which was some ideas of how to manage money, how to plan your budget, how to do a checking account, how to just take care of your financial world. And we got involved with all kinds of people. And at that point, I got to meet a number of seniors who were having financial issues, not the least of which was what I think is just everybody's reluctance to discuss money way before you need to. It's just not a comfortable topic. It's not something you share. I met a couple with one program we did who'd been married for 38 years, and she had no idea what he made for a living. Nor did she have an idea what his retirement plan was. Nor did he have any of hers. So I mean, it was like, we need to talk about these things. So that was where I started with this idea of mentoring, the idea that seniors working with other people, particularly other seniors, could be of help. And also what's then come from it is the energy that's come from other seniors who have also either interests, passions in something, an expertise in something, or something they just like to share. And so what we've been doing is thinking and working with other people in terms of how to help them get started with this kind of activity. And by the way, I think in terms of the senior center and the participation, this kind of program really brings people in. It brings people in because they can then share, and then they're able to share in turn. So welcome. This is, the rehearsal was so great, I didn't want to say a thing. So here I am anyway. Please let us know if you have questions at any point, and we'll be very glad to respond. And I'm going to bring Roland up to introduce our first speaker.
Thank you, Jeff. We couldn't have done this without this panel. We don't have the expertise. And I reached out to Roberta, our first presenter, a longtime friend. She and her husband and my wife used to go out to lunch at least once every couple of weeks. She lost her husband over a year ago. His birthday was yesterday, so that was a very difficult day. But please welcome Roberta Edie.
Thank you all, and thank you, Roland. Thank you all, and thank you, Roland, and thank all of you on Zoom. Well,
as you can see, I felt a lot like that when it happened. And I even had a warning, but let me give you a little bit of background. First of all, my expertise is a lot of mistakes. I am your case study that they're going to build their whole case on about when, if I had people like this, I might not have been pulling my hair out. As Roland said, my name is Roberta Edie. I have been married to my wonderful husband for 57 years. And I'm 78 years old. Now I tell you that because it makes a difference. I mean, I'm definitely a senior and not as sharp as the kids today with all the, computers and things like that. And being married for so long, obviously I let him have his own way. And so he did all the finances and everything and all. So to me, I called it my imperfect storm, because I don't know if any of you remember that movie, The Perfect Storm, where there were three fronts that were not supposed to come together, but they did come together and created chaos. My imperfect storm, my three fronts was grief, loneliness, and I was scared. I had warning. My husband had been sick for 3 years with lung cancer. But, I always imagined the very last day that person was coming in on the horse and bringing that cure. So you do put it off. But thank goodness my husband was a planner. He was older than I was, and he thought we should do some planning. And this is my story. Everybody's story is going to be a little bit different. Oh, good. So plan ahead. What my spouse and I did many years before, and I mean many years, my husband said, you have longevity in your family. I don't want to leave you penniless. So we did get a lot of planning ahead of time. We set financial goals that were realistic and changeable. We took inflation into consideration, and we protect the assets from unnecessary taxes. And being in Massachusetts, that was important. But we couldn't do this alone. We gathered a team. We did have a financial planner. We did have an attorney, and we did have an accountant. And you're probably saying, well, she's all set. Why is she standing up here telling me she was making?
Why is this thing up? I can't get it.
I'll be getting to that. But
I don't want to hit any buttons here.
out of the way. But this was the process after discovering my spouse had cancer. If you have anybody you're taking care of with a long-term illness, you have to balance between hope and reality. And we had a lot of hope for the longest time, and then we had to have reality set in. So we did prepare our home, and then you have to do the funeral arrangements. I would say while you're still healthy, you discuss this with each other. If one is more hesitant than the other, then you start off, like I would start off with my husband. And I said, well, I'm going the old fashioned way. You can put me in a box and bury me. And so then he said to me, well, if you're going to do that, I want to be cremated so that, because I'm going to die first, he said, so then I can go in the box with you, so, and my kids laughed. They said, you'll never get away from him, Mom, so anyway, it's not easy. It's necessary to make, you have some kind, and it's not so much for the person who is leaving you, but it's for your peace of mind that you know that you've done what that person wanted to the best of your ability. So forth. But this is where I come in. This is what I wish I had done earlier. Remember, I mentioned all those wonderful people that were helping me. And my husband, well, when I would go to the meetings, I could tell you how many squares were on the ceiling. And if they said something that might have interested me, maybe 1 minute out of 2 hours, I maybe listened, So I wish I had paid much more attention. Like I said, especially at the meetings. Finance wasn't my bag. I'm a nurse, or retired nurse, So I should have been more involved. I should have known how to access the financials on the computer. I should have known the difference between a trust fund, an annuity, and all these terms that they were requiring minimum distributions, all these terms that I just didn't understand. I should have understood that. I should have known how to pay a bill. I don't know how. I learned how to pay a bill the day after my husband passed. And I should have known when the assets would be available. You know, you can have all these wonderful plans, but you have to find out when they're all going to kick in and help you and save you. You know, so the other thing is, I should have gotten earlier credit cards in my name only. It's very difficult with some credit card companies. When you tell them your husband has passed, they're throwing the baby and the baby's water away. I got thrown away with a lot of them. The one credit card that helped me the most was Discover, because with some of the other ones, first of all, they throw you away. So then you start with base zero with a new credit card. You get like all of $6,000 credit when you first sign up. With Discover, we had been, as a joint account, had been with them for a long time. And they took my husband off. They kept us at the same amount, which was a hefty amount that we could have credit for, which comes in handy. And they were always on the phone for you, and they were kind. I don't work for Discover, but I just want everybody to know what a good experience I had with them, you know. Okay, next one, please. Afterwards, it was still an imperfect storm, because after he died, I still had the grief, except worse, scared, out of my mind, and lonely, except for friends and, you know, my team, which all these people that stay real close to you, they're not always staying real close to you after the person died. I'm lucky I have two great adult children who are, you know, one is really good in computers, the other is really good in finance. And they were really there. In fact, my daughter had to stay with me for a month. She went through all the bills. She made spreadsheets. She did everything. She lives in Connecticut, so otherwise I'd have her in my back pocket all the time. But one thing you have to have, a notebook. You are going to be talking to so many people, and you're going to be saying so many things, and you're not going to remember the next day who you talked to, what you talked about, or anything. In fact, I started this notebook. My husband died on a Friday. My notebook was started on Monday. And just a month ago, so that would have been 14 months after he passed, I had to pull out this notebook again because Citibank was still all over me. We won't go into that one because we don't have enough hours in the day. So I had to go in to see who I talked to, what they said to me. A notebook is vital because you're going to be contacting former employees. You're going to be contacting Social Security. You're going to be contacting financial companies. Financially, we had it set up that my husband's pension would be gone and annuities would kick in. So with something like that, you have to make sure you have enough liquid cash. I had enough for 1.5 years. Most professionals recommend 2 years. But yeah, so, and that's something you just don't get overnight. You have to be budgeting that in. And then I also downsized. We had a big home. None of the children lived close by. The closest was an hour in New Hampshire. So in that year, my husband died April the 24th, 2020. And on April the 2nd, 2021, I bought another home in a 55 and over senior citizen community in Amherst, New Hampshire, 10 minutes from my son. And I moved in June because I promised my husband I would stay 1 year in the house. For me, it was probably a really good move because the children would have had to keep coming down, and it would have been too far. When you move into a community like something like this, you just have to pick up the phone and call anybody and say, help, finish raising me, you know, so. But you do have a wonderful panel here to tell you some of the things that would have made my life easier. You know, but I would like to just read this one thing to you. I have a few, I guess, prayers or mantras, you know, I always feel God walked with me through this. And this is one of them, and it's really important. They don't have a copy, I just threw it in. But if you listen to it carefully, anxiety happens when you think you have to figure out everything all at once. Breathe, you're strong. You've got this. Take it day by day. And that has helped me so many times. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Roberta, thanks for sharing the reality. It really touches a lot of this is what you need to pay attention to. Roland had introduced me to Melissa Morammer, our next speaker. I've gotten to know her a little bit better, even though we've met only on Zoom, but she's been very active in the community, I found out. She was formed with a group, Kindness Collaborative, where you've done projects. You've also done a lot of raising funds for different groups. And more recently, she put together packages for 150 Afghanistan families that were coming here. So got to know much more about it.
Someone's been stalking me.
It's easy to come up with actually this is the local paper.
Okay.
So we've seen that information. So no further ado, I'd like to introduce Melissa Morammer.
Well, that was a little embarrassing, but thanks. My name is Melissa Morammer, and I'm with Borslow Insurance, and I'm actually a local resident here in Andover. The big joke is my 15-year-old says, how do you not know where anything is in Andover? Well, for 15 years, I get on the highway and I go to work in Methuen. I worked for John Hancock for the last 20 years. I got sold a few years back. I do investments in insurance. And what happened is, a few years ago, we made this book, If I Had Only Known. And who in this room has ever had a client, a family member, friend, colleague die, and they don't know what to say? It's very common. I'm 51 years old, and at the age of 2, my dad at 32 had died unexpectedly. My mom is a widow with 5 children under the age of 7. And this I'm very passionate about, because most people, when they see that book, they say, I'm not old, I'm not going to do it. This is not only for the 70-year-old, this is for your 25-year-old kid, this is for your 40-year-old. There is no time like the present to do the proper planning. In this book, actually, I have settled probably 2,000 claims in my career. That's everything from a 14-year-old committing suicide to a 98-year-old dying. And no one does the planning. 9 out of 10 people do not have a proper plan in place. And not only is it frustrating for the family, you need to grieve when someone dies. You don't have to be worrying about the nonsense the family deals. So that's why this book was created. And the last one that really hit hard was, I got a call 3 years ago from a gentleman in Palmer, Mass. His 32-year-old daughter was on the faculty of Proctor Academy. She was there with her significant other. They were vacationing 2 days before Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, she was on a scooter accident and died unexpectedly. The call from her father was, Melissa, how do I get this body back from Florida? It was probably the most heart-wrenching call I've ever received in my life. Then to go even further on, it was my 32-year-old daughter. I have no idea if she's ever filed taxes. She does TurboTax. I have no idea if she has a bank account. She does online banking. 99% of the people out there, the kids, your grandkids, that's how they operate. They have pictures, they have them on Facebook, they don't have a printed thing. So it's not only doing the planning for the financial reasons, it's for all the other reasons. So I just want to go through the work we do with clients is so much more deeper than some people realize. A lot of people say, Melissa, what do you do for a living? I was joking, say I sell life insurance and long-term care insurance to rich people. And that's really not what I do. I help people solve the problems so they can do the proper planning, so their wishes are granted. You know, years ago, I worked on River Road, starting with John Hancock, and I was handed a phone book and said, Melissa, call every 65-year-old. And I was 24 years old, right out of college. I went to Bentley with a degree in finance, and I'm calling strangers, selling them long-term care insurance. And what I found out is you don't talk to your kids about what you have for money. I mean, I grew up in a house, we didn't know we were poor. We thought green stamps were free money. It was food stamps. And it was not until I was older that I realized we were poor. And it's very common that all these strangers that I met with, you know, they don't discuss these things with their children. And it's not because you don't want to discuss the things with the children. Your children don't want to hear if you're going to die or become disabled. And so that's a hard conversation. But what I've been very successful at doing is anyone that I meet with over the age of 60, I invite the children to be part of the conversation. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes I don't invite the children because the children care more about the money than the parents, but I at least try to gauge that to open up the conversation for that. That's one big happy family. The other big reason for this book was identity theft. Identity theft is the #1 crime that's happening, and a lot of people don't realize whether you're young, old, identity theft is happening in ways that you can protect your identity. A lot of people, when someone passes away, they're publishing stuff in the obituary that has personal information in there. And so a lot of people, you know, might have a house that's for sale and they're not shutting off the mail going to the home. Identities are getting stolen from that. People read I mean, Jane can attest to it. I mean, in the senior center, how many people possibly come here and report scams? A lot of it's from the mail or the phone call that your grandson needs money to get bailed out of jail. But identity theft is very important, and this book addresses how to protect your identity as well. And personal identification, limiting it in the obituary, reporting to the Social Security, contact the DMV, credit reports, and shut down social media. How many of you in the room have social media? Wow, that's great. How many of you know how to shut off your social media if something happens to you? Oh, very good. He's gonna give what's your name, sir?
Oh, okay.
Okay, he's gonna give a lesson. It's social media is great, but knowing how to archive that upon one's passing is even more important, because the last thing you want to do is have things on there that might not be appropriate, and also identity fraud happening from there. And then Facebook, Facebook is the same. There's ways, settings to go in, and I walk you through it here. And also very important on here, I had put in the book, which everyone will get a copy of, there are these worksheets that are in the back that are extremely important, and I put them in large print for you, so you can use them as working documents, and if anyone wants PDF copies, I can send them as well. But this allows you to put everything in one location, passwords, where you might have the social media account that has all your grandkids' pictures on it. Your daughter doesn't know what your password is. She doesn't have those pictures. So simple things like that can allow you to put things together. So here's a digital asset inventory. And so this is very important. How many of you know your spouse's password?
I mean, don't.
Okay, that's very important to make sure you have all the passwords. And I always reference September 11th. I actually unfortunately had a client that was in the tower that day, and the wife called me and said, Melissa, what do I do? She didn't know for a couple of days that, you know, he was confirmed deceased at that time. But if she would have had the password, she would have at least been able to, not telling him to do this, but she would have been able to go in and move some of his accounts into cash. Again, not advising anyone to do that on someone else's account. However, in this case, the stock market was crashing and, you know, she had a lot of money. I just did advise people to do something that's not legal, but you get the point. And then also with all the accounts doing the digital asset, and make sure your kids have a copy of it, please. Well, child you trust, don't be giving it to a child that might have a wife we don't like or a husband. And then the next thing is, can you believe 78% of the people in this world don't have a will? I won't make anyone raise hands, but if you don't have a will, it's something to do. Because in the state of Massachusetts, what a lot of people don't realize, if they pass away and you have minor children, the spouse gets half and the kids get half. Well, I'm sure your kids are great, but if they want to deliver pizza, you probably want your spouse to have the money to pay off the mortgage versus that. But it also, it's much easier for the family. I mean, I'm one of 5 children now. And what we did is we went through the house and, you know, we have little stickers from flea market, who gets what? You know, and I know that's, I mean, it's not like this much yet, but at least, you know, fighting over dad's family cross or doing this won't be an argument when someone passes away. And then estate planning, as far as who do you want to make decisions for you? How many people in this room have a healthcare proxy? Oh, that's very good. Okay. Now, how many people, I always joke that my mom says, you're not gonna have a healthcare proxy because you'll pull the plug on me. And that might be true. And I only, I'm not harsh, but you know, some people are more apt to make rational decisions under pressure and some people might not be. So it's very important to have the healthcare proxy. And I'll never forget the longest serving superintendent in the state of Massachusetts. He had a stroke probably about 15 years ago. And of course, it was Thanksgiving that I got the call. And he was at Brigham. He had gotten transported there. He had a massive stroke. And unfortunately, he didn't provide the healthcare proxy to the hospital. He was transferred from this area to Brigham. And he was put on life-saving things, which were not his wishes. And he was vegetable for about 6 months. So it's important and great that you have the healthcare proxy, but please make sure you give a copy to whoever you appointed. Make sure you give it to your doctor. Put it on your refrigerator, because if the ambulance comes in, at least it's handy. So that's on the healthcare proxy. And then the those girls that have fun, sisters that got along before they thought about the money. And in the US, billions of dollars go unclaimed annually. And that brings me to asset inventory and location. Please do a list of what you have for assets. Most people have no idea what they have. A lot of people have an idea what they have for assets. But the most common thing is people don't realize a lot of these life insurance companies, when they demutualized back in the 2000s, that you owned a life insurance policy, John Hancock, MetLife, Prudential, all of them had to give you something of value. So a lot of people actually own shares in those companies, which are outside of the life insurance. So it's very important to be aware of that. And that comes into play quite often when someone has a nursing home situation and they're trying to apply for Mass Health, Medicaid. The one asset each and every time that disqualifies someone from becoming eligible is that they have this $10,000 or $12,000 that is accumulated the last 40 years in the life insurance, well, in the investments. And they also don't have a named beneficiary, because when they separated the two, it just got registered with the account. You can simply add a beneficiary onto that. But just taking a list of all the asset inventory. Another thing that's overlooked quite a bit, military service papers. Does anyone have a spouse that was in the military that's not living in the country? Don't raise your hand. Carol. Okay, I'm gonna pick on you, Carol. Did you know if you need a nursing home or you do? Yeah. Okay, so you did. Huh?
I would.
Okay, great. So Carol's very good. Where a lot of people don't realize if their loved ones served time in the military, that they might be eligible for some assistance with assisted living care stipend amount if they aid in attendance if they qualify. So it's very important to do that. And it's also very important, the veterans always comes up, because when someone passes away, Carol, I'm thinking of you again, how many children do you have?
3,
Boys or girls?
1 girl, 2 boys.
And your husband is no longer with us?
Right, he was a career person.
So after the funeral, did you get the flag?
For 5 years.
Okay. When you pass away, who's getting the flag?
I don't know.
So Carol has homework to do later, because it's the number one thing people fight about is the flag upon death. I know it sounds trivial, but it's very important, things like that. You know, it reminds me of a case a few years ago where an infant had passed away and they had sent the body to be cremated. Well, they didn't give clear instructions to the funeral home, or the funeral home didn't listen. And the clothes were gone as well. And it was very devastating for the family, because that was the outfit that they wanted to save as a memory. So simple little things are very important, and the book addresses things like that. So just make sure your assets are in one location. And your people, how many people have people? Okay, great. It's great to have people, but it's more important to have a team of people that actually communicate with each other. I always joke with my sister, who's an accountant that has tunnel vision, and you know, I look at the whole picture. She looks at the tunnel vision, and then you have a lawyer. It's very important. We're all in the same team. They don't necessarily have to come from the same office, but make sure you open up the lines of communication. That your accountant can talk to the lawyer can talk to the finance person. Because if everyone's looking at your best interest, you're going to be ahead. So as an investment person, you know, it's important, if I'm dealing with IRAs and required minimum distributions, that I'm communicating with your accountant what I'm doing. So when you're doing your people, choose wisely.
Melissa, you have a question?
Yes.
The difference between a durable power of attorney and a healthcare proxy. I thought in Massachusetts they were the same thing.
Sure. The question for those on Zoom, great question. She asked, what's the difference between a durable power of attorney and a healthcare proxy? I'm not an attorney, but they are 2 separate documents. A healthcare proxy dictates who's going to make the decisions, if you're going to be kept alive by extreme measures or not. The durable power of attorney is basically you're giving someone authority to act on your behalf for the finances. And that document that's the most important document, because you're basically allowing someone to steal your money. Well, of course, the doctor has to say that you're incompetent in order for that to work. But I think of my uncle had Alzheimer's years ago, and the durable power of attorney was able to be used. He had to go into a nursing home in Apple Valley in Lancaster, Mass. And the durable power of attorney allowed us to take his name off of the house and put the house just in her name. So that protected the asset for that. She also had a special needs child to make it a little bit more complicated, but they're 2 distinct documents. And why do people fail to plan? They just avoid it. There's a million things to do. And I always use the example, most people spend more time planning vacation after going through Expedia, looking at 92 flights. My husband got on a plane last night to Pakistan, and I think he probably spent 30 hours seeing where the cheapest flight was and then changing his mind 22 times. And at the end of the conversation, when I put him on the airplane last night, I said, you do have the will in a safe place tonight. So it's very important not to avoid planning, and this breaks it out into pieces for you because it can be overwhelming. But if you just take one piece at a time, everything can be complete. And, go to your senior center, they're a resource. If you have any questions, I can help. Or if you have a financial advisor, an accountant, lawyer, after you go through these, bring them to them and say, listen, this is where I'm at. Do you think we should update some things? And again, knowledge remains, you don't want to be a burden to others. The biggest thing the biggest relief when you're done planning is that you have the freedom to choose what you want. And you're not going to be a burden to your children. And again, 1 of 5 children. You know, I live an hour away from my mom, and, you know, I certainly can provide financial support to my mom, but I had a child later in life, so a 15-year-old and 91-year-old mother-in-law living upstairs. I'm not the child that's able to go feed my mother dinner every night. You know, but I know what my limitations are. Financially, I can support, and I have a sister that can provide the emotional support. And if everything's agreed upon, it's much easier for all children involved. I did that one. Sorry. We're still on that one. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. And I'm not very good at following slides, I apologize. Removing the objection, don't have the knowledge of the means. Everyone can make an excuse, they don't want to do it, but at the end of the day, no one likes to face their own mortality. But you can't help but pick up the paper. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, 51 years old, driving on 195. 3 weeks ago, a dear friend of mine got killed, 5 kids, lives in Lawrence. You know, it's not, you know, the 80-year-old that has a stroke, it's all ages. So now is the time to plan. Influences, again, just speak with your accountants, your lawyers, anyone that you feel is important to you. You can't use the excuse, you don't know where to stop, get your homework's here, you know, I'll get a book. And it's actually helpful. It's not a book you're gonna put by the nightstand, hopefully not, anyway. And there'll be a quiz going on at the end of the week. And that's about it. Does anyone have any questions?
I guess I have a question about the durable power of attorney.
Yes.
Because I saw in a webinar with Margolis and Bloom.
Yep.
That it's more complicated if it's a springing one.
Correct.
To deal with institutions. So when I was on NOLA trying to create mine.
Yep.
I was confused. What's the best kind of durable power?
It depends.
What's the question, please?
Oh, sure. The difference between a springing power of attorney and a durable power of attorney. And again, I'm not an attorney, I'm not giving legal advice, but the major differences are a durable power of attorney when you're living can allow you to gift to someone. So an example, you want to gift, like a limited power of attorney, I can go sell your house for you. I can act on your behalf. A durable power of attorney, your letters, your doctor's providing a letter saying you're deemed incompetent or unable to, you're in a coma. And so they have full power to file your taxes, do anything and everything. The limited power of attorney is for a specific, you know, selling of a house, a one-time thing.
It just as an aside, I had a nephew who passed away and the parents felt lucky he had signed out of his email, but he had Bitcoin. I had no idea how to find it. So it can be young people.
No, it's young people. I mean, the 32-year-old, I mean, TurboTax, everything online, and you know, it takes a while. I mean, but even then, every account statement online. So it's a needle in a haystack. You know, I get calls all the time from attorneys. Can you find something? Certainly, I can go to missingmoney.com and track out something, but it takes 3 years for something to hit missing money. It's called abandoned property in Massachusetts, or it could be another place as well. Any other questions?
Any from online, Don? Any chats?
Nope.
Okay.
All good.
Yes.
I did want to clarify that a durable power of attorney dies when the person dies.
That's correct.
Okay, so it's over. Okay, when the person dies. When the person's dead, it's your will.
What is your name?
The will takes over. when
No,
you
I
die.
said, what is your name?
Well, my name is Margaret O'Connor.
Okay, Margaret O'Connor made a very good point, and I should have specified with the durable power of attorney, upon one's passing, that dies with them. So then at that point, it goes to the will or the trust, and the executor has control. The durable power of attorney ceases control upon death. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for having me.
Thank you.
I didn't make anyone cry. My goal is usually to make someone cry.
Next Thank you, Melissa, that was wonderful.
Really good.
Really get to the points. When Don and Roland and I started to do the mentoring programs, for the most part, we did the presentations as well as the planning and all that. And somewhere along the line, we thought, you know, if we get experts, we'll actually be able to sit and listen, and here's some things that might be interesting to us as well. And also involve people who have more different, varied, and better experiences than we can share. The next person that I'm very happy to introduce is Nandi Munson, and she is a graduate presenter. She was part of a program we did called Retirement Living, where we talked about different living options for seniors in and around the area. We didn't expand much beyond that, but Nandi was very helpful. She is a community outreach program manager for the Elder Services of Merrimack Valley, and I'd like to welcome her. And people on Zoom as well as here in the audience, please come with your questions. Nandi is one of the liveliest presenters I've ever heard.
Oh, boy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
Hi, how's everybody doing out there in the real world and in the real world on Zoom at home? Hi, everybody at home. My name is Nandi Munson. Thank you so much, Jeff, for the introduction. I've had the pleasure of working with the mentors before on another presentation this past winter, and I just love working with them. They are so organized and coordinated, and anytime they call me or email me and invite me to join them, I'm always here for that. And we're so excited to see you all here today and the folks on Zoom as well. I'm from Elder Services of the Merrimack Valley and North Shore. How many of you in the room have heard that name before? Okay, so most people are a little bit familiar. I'm the Community Outreach Program Manager there. I'm a licensed social worker here in the state of Massachusetts, and I've worked in the elder care industry for about 12 years. I'm really lucky because I actually grew up in nursing homes and assisted livings. My mother did this type of work, and I just always loved being with older adults and working with seniors. And I've been able to work in nursing homes, assisted livings. I've done home care services. I've been a private home care aide. And now I get to work for Elder Services as an outreach program manager. So I just feel really lucky that I've gotten to see so many different pieces of the elder care industry. And it's just been a lot of fun for me. So our agency is a private nonprofit. We've been around for almost 50 years. So we've been doing this type of work for a long while now, and I've seen a lot of changes over the past 5 decades as far as what is available for older adults here in the Merrimack Valley and North Shore region. We serve a really large coverage area, 28 cities and towns. I'll show you a map a little bit later, but we're a really large nonprofit. We have almost 500 employees, and the elders that we serve through our many different programs, around 38,000 consumers throughout the Merrimack Valley and North Shore area. So this is a map of our catchment area that we serve. Something important I want to mention is that we are one of over 20 agencies like ours throughout the state. So we cover these cities and towns, but an agency like ours is available for every single city and town in the Commonwealth in the state of Massachusetts. So if you have friends or family, say out in the Berkshires or down the Cape or central Massachusetts, we don't serve those areas, but our sister agencies do. So just keep that in mind today. So just a little bit about the mission of our agency. Our work is really geared towards providing older adults options for how you want to age. Most people that I've met don't wish to end up in a nursing home, but as our needs change as we age, many people end up finding that they need help with things like grocery shopping, housekeeping, laundry, and even personal care like bathing and dressing and grooming, getting to the bathroom, transferring, and things like that. It's typically when those needs start to increase that people will sometimes need to go to a nursing home. We're really lucky that we have the nursing home industry. It's a place that a lot of people do need support. But again, most people I know don't really want to go to a nursing home if they can help it. That's really why we exist. We provide services and programs including home care services that can help support the needs of older adults in their own home, whether it be an apartment in elder housing or their own single family home, or they're living with a loved one here. We can help coordinate care so that that person can age at home for as long as possible with help, maybe with family and friends, but kind of putting a jigsaw puzzle together of how can we give people choices so that they're not being forced into a decision that they don't really want to make. So we're a really large agency and we actually have over 25 different programs, but I just want to talk to you a little bit about kind of like our bread and butter programs, as I like to call them. The programs that are typically more common. You can actually go back one. Yeah, thank you. How many in this room have heard of the Meals on Wheels program? That's a really popular program. I think everyone across the country knows Meals on Wheels. When I was in college in Illinois, I actually delivered Meals on Wheels once and got to see what that looks like. Here in the Merrimack Valley, our agency is kind of like the hub of the Meals on Wheels programs throughout the area. We work closely with the senior centers to help distribute meals, but that is a program for older adults who are homebound, not able to leave the house, who are no longer able to cook for themselves. It could be something as simple as somebody might not have the mobility to stand up at a counter for long enough to make their own meal. Imagine when you're slaving and making something like a spaghetti sauce from scratch, you're kind of up on your feet a lot, right? In front of that oven, the stove. So the Meals on Wheels program can be for any older adult who is just needing help with providing a meal. It's a hot lunch program that's delivered Monday through Friday. And it's a very popular program that many people need. As you can imagine, during the pandemic, we saw a huge increase of referrals to our Meals on Wheels program because so many seniors, maybe who were able to get out before, had a significant reason to stay home and stay safe. So that is continually a really growing program. It's actually a volunteer driver program too. So we have hundreds of Meals on Wheels drivers in the area and throughout the state who sign up to deliver meals to people who are stuck at home. It's a really special program. Our home care services is probably our most common program. So here in Massachusetts, I'm going to tell you a little secret. This state is an excellent place to age. We have more programs here than any state across the country, hands down. Massachusetts is kind of our nickname, right? I think Roberta mentioned that earlier, and like good and bad with that, but one of the good things is that we do have this extensive home care program that's available for people that is subsidized by the state. So other states may have home care services and aides to go in and help people at home, but those services are all private pay and they can be quite costly. Here in Massachusetts, our home care program is subsidized, meaning if somebody needs help at home and they can't afford to private pay for it, the state will reduce the cost of giving them kind of like a small sliding scale fee that they can contribute to their care, but the state will help provide those services to somebody living at home. Do you have a question?
Yes. If you mentioned a sliding scale for home care services, are there income, like income maximums? In other words, it's not that sliding scale is only available up to a total annual income of $20,000, and beyond that you pay everything, or is it totally sliding? Obviously, if you've got a huge multi-$100,000 income, you don't need the sliding scale, but most of us fall somewhere way below, between the Medicaid cutoff and.
Yes, that's a really good question. So a question
What
in
is
the
the question?
audience, yep, here at the center, about for home care services in Massachusetts, is there kind of an income like max or threshold? There is, and it changes every year, so I won't quote it, but if you call our agency, they can always tell you that right over the phone to let you know. But even for people who are considered over income for the subsidized cost of services, you can still get free case management through elder services, and those case managers can coordinate the care for you. So that's really helpful for people who may not have family or loved ones, or whose family or loved ones may not be local or may not be available to help with things like calling and scheduling an aide to come in and checking on the older adult to make sure that the services are adequate to meet their needs. So anyone can always get a case manager to help coordinate their services here in Massachusetts, regardless of their income. That's a really good question. See green, you in the green shirt, Miss First?
My understanding is it's just income, not assets.
Correct, yes.
It's
So
income-based.
that's a good question. So the question was, is the kind of fee for home care services, the subsidized fee in Massachusetts, is it based on income and or assets? It's strictly income. So that's a really good question. And they do look at a couple's monthly income as well, husband and wife.
That's what I was gonna say, is it's your income, not what you have.
Yes.
And it's not up there, but they also help with adult daycare, which was very, very helpful for me.
That's a good point. So somebody mentioned adult daycare. Those are really awesome programs that we have here in Massachusetts that are essentially day centers. Sometimes there are day programs within a senior center, but not all senior centers offer that. But there are standalone day centers throughout the area that can help for older adults and people with disabilities who need somewhere safe to go during the day to get some services at home healthy to help with things like bathroom and grooming and getting washed up, as well as social services, recreational services, a breakfast and a lunch. So the day programs are awesome resources that we have. We've got several throughout the area. Some are kind of more specialized on Alzheimer's and dementia. Others work with maybe younger population, maybe with mental health and some other diagnoses, but those are really good programs as well. So thank you for mentioning that. Another thing I want to clarify is the subsidized home care services in Massachusetts and the eligibility for that is based on age, income, and kind of physical need. That's different than mass health eligibility, just to clarify. For people who are eligible for mass health in the community, mass health will often pay for home care services so that oftentimes mass health beneficiaries don't have to pay any type of copay for those. So I just wanted to clarify that point. The home care service eligibility is different than mass health eligibility. Okay, mass health does look at assets. So another program I always like mentioning is our family caregiver program. It's just like what it sounds. It's really a free resource to anybody caring for a loved one, whether the caregiver lives in Merrimack Valley and North Shore or the care recipient. So maybe their elderly parent or a spouse. Sometimes we'll work with caregivers where the daughter's in California or Florida, but the mom is here in Massachusetts, here in our catchment area. So all that to say, we work with caregivers kind of local and across the nation who need information about things like Alzheimer's and dementia, need to connect with resources, need a listening ear to help support through the really challenging work that is caregiving. So really high burden of stress on caregivers. And oftentimes they're so focused on caring for their loved one, whether it be a spouse or a parent or a neighbor or a friend, that they tend to stop caring for themselves. And the caregiver program is really designed to come alongside that caregiver and make sure that they're getting support, help, that they're not isolating. And it also can connect them with other caregivers through things like support groups and memory cafes. And just knowing you're not alone in a caregiver role can be really helpful. A lot of our programming, like everyone else's, has gone virtual, of course, in the last year and a half. And it's really helpful for caregivers, we're finding, to be able to jump on a Zoom call and jump in and be able to talk with other caregivers where maybe they're not able to leave the house because they're working with somebody they love who is at risk of wandering or can't be left home alone. So we've seen a lot of growth in the availability for virtual programming and resources and support groups for caregivers who are sometimes stuck at home. Two other programs I wanted to highlight briefly. Our SHINE program. Is anybody in the room familiar with SHINE? Have you heard that term before? I see a couple of hands. So the SHINE program is an incredible free resource here that supports people navigating Medicare. Medicare, if you are 65 or older, is a very complex animal, very, very confusing for people. Unfortunately, if you've experienced that, it's not very fun, but the SHINE counselors can help people understand what Medicare is, demystify it, kind of like take the mystery out of it and make it understandable for people and help people make sure that they're in a drug plan or an Advantage plan or a Medigap that's the most beneficial for you as an individual. The number one thing with Medicare is it's not one size fits all. So you don't really want to ask your neighbor what they do for Medicare because it's probably entirely different than what's going to make sense for you. So much of it is based on your personal health care, on your personal medication list. So you don't really want to compare notes with Medicare. but definitely speak with a SHINE counselor. Again, there's no cost for SHINE counseling. It's a free resource that's available to anybody who's either turning 65 or already has Medicare. And one of the last programs I want to mention, just of our many, many programs, but some of the ones that I always like to highlight, long-term care options counseling is another free program that helps people navigate the many programs and resources that are available to you. The good news, bad news of Massachusetts being a really robust state for elder programming. The good news is that there's so many options, but the bad news is it can be a little bit overwhelming. Like, what's the difference between a nursing home and a rest home and assisted living, right? The options counselors, again, free resource that can help people identify what the resources are that are going to make the most sense for you, whether it be getting set up with home care services or an adult day program, whether it be learning about rest homes or looking at different nursing homes and how to pay for long-term care. The options counselors can help people navigate that. They can help you navigate for yourself, or they can work with you if you're caring for a loved one, a spouse, a parent. So I always like to mention that program. I think we're good for our last slide here. So our 1-800 number, 1-800-892-0890. If you call that, you're going to speak with a human being, a live person, either here in our Lawrence office, so kind of next door, or our Danvers office. And the people who answer those phones are experts in all of the resources available here for you. They can talk you through what you might be looking for. You can call them even if you're not quite sure what you need, but you just want to talk to somebody who can help you identify what's the next step for me. I need help, or I'm talking with a loved one who needs some help at home. They need a lifeline. They need Meals on Wheels. They need some case management. Call our 1-800 number. They will be available to kind of help walk you through all of that. Our website's also available, www.esmv.org. There's a lot of awesome programs on there that are highlighted if you're somebody who's tech savvy. But if you're not, again, just call us, 1-800-892-0890. And my phone number and email are up on the slides as well. Feel free to reach out to me directly and I'd be happy to talk with you more. Are there any questions that I've missed or anything you're wondering about?
Nandi, that was really, really very informative. Just again to everybody at home, and Nandi said it as well, but if you have questions at any point, or you have ones that you're saving toward the end of the presentation, please don't hesitate. Type them into your chat online, or for those of you here, just make a note and make sure to ask us. Speaking of SHINE, reminds me to mention that we're doing a program next month, which is designed to look at Social Security. Sorry, I forgot. So used to wearing them. Okay. It's Social Security month to sign up. They're starting next month. And so we're going to have a SHINE counselor, actually two, coming to do a presentation on that exactly. Now, we hadn't really determined if we we're going to try and do it live, but it'll at least be out on Zoom. All right, watch our schedule for that. Our next presenter, and very welcome, is Susan Tolios. And Susan is a hospice and bereavement counselor working with Home Health Foundation. And she's going to talk about services and things that are available for you as you get to a point where you have a boss. Susan.
I'm Susan. Thanks, everyone. I'm honored to be part of the panel. So I work at Merrimack Valley Hospice, which is part of Home Health Foundation. My office is also in Lawrence. So I'm here to just talk to you a little bit about the subject of hospice, which I think of all the subjects may be the most taboo possibly. I'm not sure, but so I'm here to talk to you about hospice. Our first slide is, why hospice, right? Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to try to get on hospice care? And so you can read the slide. I'm going to have little snarky comments with the slide. I would say why hospice, because hospice is actually about living, not about dying. Hospice is about living the rest of your life to the end of your life exactly the way that you want to live it. having choices, doing the things that you want to do, not being vulnerable, or to other people's choices, to medical decisions that you're not really a part of and that your family doesn't understand and isn't a part of. You know, hospice care is really the most comprehensive and holistic kind of medical care out there, as far as I'm concerned, especially out there for life-limiting illness, for sure. Oh, I'm not quite done, sorry. So hospice care, you know, it's care for patients whose illness is no longer responding to curative treatment. I would also say it's for people who are no longer responding to the curative treatment that they're undergoing. Not just that your illness isn't responding, maybe you're not responding to it. Maybe you don't like it anymore. Maybe you want to take a break from it, or it's not working for you. It's really diminishing the quality of your life, and you want to explore what else can I do to take care of myself right now. Hospice care definitely looks at the patient and their whole family as a unit. It does not look at any one individual as living in a vacuum and that's all there is, just that one person. It looks and treats and respects the whole family. And so family and patient can be involved in talking about the decisions and what's going to happen. Now I'm ready. So the hospice philosophy is, you know, that we live our lives on our terms, even at end of life, especially at end of life. It's time to live our life on our terms. Pain relief, comfort, enhanced quality of life. That's joy, right? That's the word I would use, right? That's a little bit less formal word, right? Enhanced quality of life is joy. Everybody that works in hospice, we're looking for pain-free comfort and we're looking to bring joy to people's lives. Hospice can be provided wherever you are, wherever the patient is, in their own home, in an assisted living facility, in any kind of long-term care facility, in the hospital, wherever you are, you can be evaluated for hospice services, and you can receive hospice services. We also have a freestanding inpatient hospice setting, our High Point House in Haverhill, which is a beautiful, beautiful building has been around. I should know exactly. It's a little over 15 years, I think. It is a very well designed and intentionally designed building that is beautiful, with art tucked away in a pine woods, with landscaping, and it's a beautiful setting. If it wasn't for COVID, I would tell everyone just to go visit it at 360 North Avenue in Haverhill, just to walk around and take a look. So hopefully COVID will get better maybe this spring. And it's important to know that, so you can get hospice services anywhere. You can be evaluated for hospice services anywhere. That's where it starts. No matter where you are, no matter what time it is in your illness, you can get evaluated for hospice services. Nothing has to happen except for that you just find out, is it a choice? Am I eligible? And you or your doctor can call us at any time, no matter where you are, and say, just come evaluate me for hospice services. Okay. So much is covered when you get hospice care. Hospice care is an interdisciplinary service. So you are getting, so you can see all the circles here, right? So chaplain, that's straightforward. You're getting a chaplain, you're getting volunteers. Expressive therapist, ours is a music therapist. Everyone can get that. Contracted services, medical social services, that means a social worker. Everyone has a social worker assigned to them. Medical doctors, nurse practitioners, nurses, both RNs and LPNs, and home health aides that help with all that kind of care, personal care. So you're getting, and bereavement counselors and grief counselors. So you and your family are getting all of those services when you get when you get hospice care. It's really totally holistic and comprehensive. So all Medicare covers hospice services. Most all, I know in the Commonwealth of Mass, it's true. It's required that all insurance companies cover the hospice benefit. Medicare covers the hospice benefit. Other states, it can vary a little bit, but you can call and find out. Most insurance companies cover the hospice benefit. And there's, yes. The 2 points about being reassessed for eligibility at regular intervals and there being no time limit on the amount of time. That really speaks to, I think, like the barriers and that what makes this taboo, right? When you go on hospice, that doesn't make you die, okay? So one, you can be evaluated for hospice and never go on it. You can just find out I am eligible to get hospice services. Two, you can go on hospice and we have people that are on hospice care for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years. As long as they continue to be eligible, they can stay on hospice services. We have people that come on hospice services and go off of it for myriad reasons, right? Maybe there's a new thing they do want to try. I want to try a curative treatment again. I'm going to go ahead and go off hospice and do that. And that doesn't mean that I can't ever go back on hospice if I wanted to. So hospice isn't some kind of, there's not a finality to it. It's just an option that you have when you have eligibility, which is mainly a physician saying that you have an illness that could have a 6-month or less prognosis, could have, right? None of us know for sure what's going to happen. Okay. So, so the benefits that you get, the IDT team, the interdisciplinary team, all those different kinds of roles, medications are covered that are related to the diagnoses that made you eligible for hospice care, all medical equipment that you would need, supplies, and then this talks a little bit more specifically about the different benefit periods each time that you get reevaluated and to see if you're still eligible for hospice care. So what I particularly, I don't know if you can tell, I didn't admit it right off, I'm not a nurse of any kind or a medical doctor. I'm a therapist, I'm a mental health counselor. So my love of what hospice includes is our bereavement care. So I'm in charge of all of our bereavement program. So think of how comprehensive hospice is, that there's all these different disciplines that you get working for you and your family. In addition to that, your family gets services for at least 13 months after the death of the patient. You continue to get services through us, from us through bereavement care. In addition, what I have here for an example of our bereavement care is our fall schedule for our grief support groups. And those are also open to anybody in the community who's had a loss. That person does not have had to die on our services. So this is an example, and this is a flyer that's over here on the table. I have 3 other flyers that just expand upon some of the groups that are listed here, the cooking and eating for one and the holiday groups. I have separate flyers for those. So those are welcome for people to take those from that table. So bereavement care is what I do. And I think it's a really amazing and wonderful thing that we continue to care for a person's family after their death. So you can't get much more comprehensive than that. So, and all hospices are required to do that. So here's my, it's a little bit bungled out, but so our referral services. So in other words, if you want to try to call and get evaluated, that's 24/7. It has our 1-800 number there. I like that it does say early referrals are good. Early referrals can help the patient and family, right? The earlier, the better. Even if you don't think it's something that you're going to use right now, find out if you're eligible. Find out if any of the medical conditions you have would make you eligible, because the sooner we can get in, the sooner we can provide all these different services for you. And like I said, you may live another 2 years. You may be on hospice for a year and go off of it because now you want to try another curative treatment. It doesn't mean you're going to die now. It just means you may be eligible to get a lot of wonderful services. And then my information is over there, and my information is also at the bottom of all these flyers. So I'm the person to get in touch with, particularly about grief support groups and anything and everything having to do with bereavement. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah. I saw you have listed Surviving the Holiday.
Yes.
Can you talk about those programs?
Yes, yes. So we're gonna be doing Zoom and in person, right? So our in-person, it's just gonna be a 3-evening. I think in the past, it's only been 4 evenings. It's just gonna be a 3-evening series. And that's been going on for a long time. And we have a long time grief counselor named Lois Mara who has run those, and she does those at St. Michael's in North Andover. So those are some evening in-person groups where she'll talk, specifically about what, how to sort of handle the holidays when you have had a loss, when you're grieving. Even some really practical specific stuff like, do I do a card? Do I still do a tree? Do I have to do this? I'm talking about Christmas, but she has one early enough that can talk about Thanksgiving, there's Hanukkah, there's all kinds of holidays at this time. Just sort of talking about, do I do it differently? Do I do it the same? What kind of feelings are gonna come up that I thought maybe I was done with, but now that the holidays are here, all these new feelings are coming up. We also have 4 sessions on Zoom, 2 in November, which will probably more focus about Thanksgiving, and 2 in December, 1 each during the day and in the evening. Yes.
Is there a way we can link together some of the mentor things that we do with one of your programs?
Sure.
Would we be able to, I don't know, we need to talk more about it, but it
Yeah.
sounds to me like something that would be very worthwhile.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
What's the difference between palliative care and hospice?
Right, okay.
Right.
Yes. So somebody in the audience asked me a difficult question. I'm going to do the best I can with it. What's the difference between palliative care and hospice care? Palliative care is focused on the pain-free aspect, right? That's what it's really mostly focused on. You don't have to have like a prognosis of 6 months or less, right? Is if you have a condition, an illness, a disease that is causing a lot of pain. Unfortunately, sometimes the people that are just treating the medical professionals that are just treating that disease, they don't really think about the pain part of it, right? They're thinking about what they can do about the disease. So palliative is about is getting the pain under control, which is sounds like a major oversight to not think of that and to have a special program for that, I think maybe. And also maybe sounds like a no-brainer, like, yeah, just do it. But it's an art and a science, is getting pain under control, right? There's a very small needle that you're trying to thread because you're working on getting the pain level under control and trying not to give up lucidity, right, while you're doing that. We also have a palliative program through Home Health Foundation. But that's mostly the difference. You don't have to be eligible in that way of like a 6-month or less prognosis.
I also wanted to reinforce the idea that hospice is for the whole family. My dad passed away in 2007, and at that point I'd been a counselor myself for over 30 years. But when it's your dad, it's your daddy, it's different. And I remember going to the counselor myself while he was in the last stages and saying, I'm afraid to cry in front of him. And she said something to remember forever, which is, don't you think he knows that you're singing? It was like, whoa. So
very good point. Yeah. So
thank you for being there.
You're welcome. So somebody in our audience just was, very nicely saying how, emphasizing the point that hospice is for the whole family, and remembering when her dad went on hospice and died. in 2007 that a counselor had really helped her, even though she knows these things. It was her own father, and you know, she was afraid to cry in front of her dad, and the counselor wisely said, like, that's not going to be the tip off to him that you're sad. He already knows that you're sad about this. It's okay. Yeah. We do. We have great counselors in our in hospice and in our bereavement program. We really do. Yeah.
Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome.
You look that.
All right. Some of my audio aids were falling out. Thank you, first of all, for joining us and for your questions. And just to follow up, we are available for follow-up questions if you'd like copies of the presentation, if you have ideas for us for other presentations, or just in general want to hear more about what mentors are doing. You can reach us at Andover Mentors at Gmail, and we'll be very happy to get back to you. If you are on Zoom and you have not gotten and or not going to be able to get a copy of the book that Melissa is making available, you can contact us. We can either work out something with the mailing or with some way to help you get it. I understand the center will make them available for pickup if you cannot get it any other way.
Absolutely.
Okay, Kelly, do you want to say a couple of? The program person here at the center was very helpful and much more effective than I am. Go, Kelly.
You know I'd be speaking, so thank you, Jeff. Once again, I want to thank our whole panel and the Andover Mentors. As Jeff mentioned, anyone on Zoom or anyone here that if you misplace your book or if you forget to grab it today, please reach out to the mentors or the senior center. We will have them available at the front desk to pick up. I've also recorded this entire presentation on Zoom, so if you want that recording again, reach out to the mentors and or and we will get that to you. But before we finally close, are there any other questions for anyone on the panel or the mentors in general? Awesome. Well, once again, go ahead.
I guess I have a suggestion for a future topic, which is the Northeast Independent Living Center. If how it works, what it does. Is it connected with your organization?
Sure, yes. So,
You want to address?
sure.
I didn't hear the comment.
Thank you for that comment. So somebody mentioned the Northeast Independent Living Program. That is a fantastic organization based in Lawrence that serves adults with disabilities. Northeast Independent Living Program, sometimes you'll hear the acronym NILP. In conjunction with Elder Services, we work very closely together. And we are known as something called an Aging and Disability Resource Consortium. And if Elder Services ever gets a call about an adult with disabilities and they're looking for a particular program that Northeast Independent Living Program offers, we'll make sure that that person gets connected to NILP and vice versa. If they get calls from older adults looking for us, they'll make sure that person gets connected to us so that poor person isn't making 75 calls with the same question and repeating themselves. So it's a really wonderful organization. They are very powerful advocates for people with disabilities, physical disabilities, mental illness, deaf and hard of hearing. They cover all disabilities and they are wonderful, wonderful resource and advocates right here in the Merrimack Valley in Lawrence. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you once again for joining us. Thank you, Roberta, Melissa, Nandi, and Susan. You're terrific, and we really appreciate your efforts and your time. Happy holidays, everybody. We're almost there. Would you believe? Today is the first day of fall. I thought. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you.